Well, I got a little bored over the winter, so I started dreaming up all kinds of ways to save myself time by using things like popsicle sticks and big giant popsicle sticks and gluing seeds to them, and also these bamboo skewers. And I just can't wait to show you. So we're going to learn today how to use popsicle sticks as labels for your seeds, both in your seed trays and in the ground. My name's Mark. Can't wait for you to join me on this one. Come on, we got to grow. So it's winter. Maybe you're in zone 5B like me, or zone 3, or even zone 7. You're going to have a bit of a winter. Now, what are you going to do all winter long? Me, I got to grow. So if I can't actually be growing things, I want to grow my ability to grow things. And the way I'm going to do that is expand this year into a new way of planting seeds. This is going to make things way easier when spring comes around. It's going to make planting seeds, especially out in your garden, a snap. All you need, popsicle sticks, Sharpie, or whatever marker you choose to use, a cutting tool, piece of cardboard, your seed tray, if you're starting seeds indoors, a couple scrunchies, glue, and a jar. Let me show you how I'm going to do this. The first thing you're going to want to do is measure. What was that? Yeah. My producer just flagged me down. I had my headphones on. How silly is that? I don't have a producer. Not that big. This is what we start with, our seed tray. It doesn't matter what seed tray you're using. Then we're going to grab our popsicle sticks. We're going to grab one as a sample because these are all the same length. Then we're going to put our popsicle stick into our seed tray like that. And we're going to take our marker and we are going to mark on this popsicle stick where it would touch, if it was all the way down on the bottom, where it would touch the top of the seed tray. Because we're going to want to put the lid on this with the popsicle stick in the soil. So we're going to go just below where the top of the lid would be, which is right there. Okay? That is going to be where we cut. And we're not just going to cut one. We could just cut this one. We're going to cut a whole bunch at once. We're going to line them up just like that. That's where our hair scrunchies come in. If someone in your house, or you yourself, have long hair, you will have an abundance of these, probably more than you want, kicking around your house. So we're going to put 2 scrunchies on. We want this to be good and tight at both ends. Get it as tight as you can. We're going to want them even because we're using that line we made on the first popsicle stick as a guide. And this doesn't have to be exact, but let's get it pretty close. So there's my line right there. We're going to take our handy saw and we are going to cut the popsicle sticks. If you didn't make a mess, it means you're not having fun. Go back and do it again. So now we have our popsicle sticks. And they should fit in here. Actually, I have one prepared with soil in it. So if I put this in here, right to the bottom, and I put the lid back on, the lid should fit. Just like that. That's the first step. Get your popsicle sticks cut to size. The next step is to take your popsicle stick and you're going to mark a line on it at the soil line when it's pressed into the bottom. So make sure it's pressed in nicely to the bottom. You're going to take your marker And you are going to just draw a line. Just shunk, like that. And then you're going to draw an arrow on it so we know which way's up. Now, that represents the soil line when this stick is pressed in. We're going to use that as a guide to figure out and glue the seed at the appropriate planting depth. So if your planting depth is 1 inch, let's say, we're going to measure down 1 inch and we're going to plant our seed 1 inch down from that line. That way, when we put our popsicle stick in the soil, we have the correct planting depth for our seed. Then you're going to line up all your popsicle sticks. So the bottom of the popsicle stick, the bottoms are all lined up. And then you're going to use your guide that you just created. We know which way's up because we put an arrow on it. You're going to use that to draw a line across all of the other popsicle sticks. There. We just use our piece of cardboard to mark a line across all these popsicle sticks. And if you thought that was the only purpose that this piece of cardboard serves, you are mistaken. Because this is where we're going to pour the glue. Now, your choice of glue, entirely up to you. And I know that's true because all that just rhymed. I'm using this one because I had it in the house, but you can choose to use whatever glue you want. If you want to be super ultra safe and you're concerned about what you're putting in your garden or what might come in contact with your seeds, make sure you've tested the glue that you're about to use by eating lots of it when you were a kid. I would say Elmer's school glue is a good choice. Once you have your dot of glue on your piece of paper or your cardboard, whatever you're using, you're going to then just figure out where the seed is going to be planted, the planting depth, and you're going to put just the slightest little dab of glue on the stick. I'm talking tiny, tiny, tiny little dab. And once you've done that, you've got the next step, which I'm going to show you right now. Now we're ready to glue the seed to the stick. We have our stick, we have our line. Let's put our arrow. Now, what I've done here is the straight part is the bottom and the rounded part is the top. So I already know, but let's just put an arrow on so it's clear. So the soil is below this line. We want to take our seed and stick it the proper planting depth below that line. And for today's example, I'm going to use a corn seed, simply because corn seeds are a little bigger. It's going to be easier to show you folks how to do this with a corn seed. I'll probably direct sow this rather than planting it as a seed. However, if you want to direct sow, you can also use this method. And I'll show you with the jumbo popsicle sticks later. But for now, we're actually going to go ahead and open the corn. Now, have a look at that. This looks like a brand new seed package, but oh, it's actually been opened. I'm going to show you how to do that because you know what I hate? I hate it's folded over, it's ripped apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that with simply a pair of scissors. I'll be right back. I'm back. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut right across the top, like this. Straight line. Now, we have this top piece, and we're just going to insert it into the top, and you'll have to kind of bend it a little bit and squeeze it back to get it in. But once you do, you have a nice secure lid. You can actually dump it. If it tips over in your seed catalog, they're not going to all fall out. And it's nice and neat and tidy. It's It's not going to get stuck on the seed packets beside it. You're welcome. Now, back to the video. So we're going to take one of these corn seeds, and you're going to learn a little bit about seed anatomy. So this corn seed has a top and a bottom, if you can believe it. So this is actually the bottom. Now, I'm going to put a picture up right here of a corn seed. No. No, over here. Yeah. Picture of a corn seed up. So that you can understand what I'm saying. The hilum should point down. So when you put this on your popsicle stick, and again, we have our arrow pointing up, we're going to put this on our popsicle stick so that the hilum, which is where the seed's going to sprout from, is pointing down. If you're direct sowing in the ground, not that big of a deal. But when we're doing this, we want to make sure, because it's stuck to a popsicle stick, that when those roots start to grow, they're going to grow down. So, corn seeds, 1 to 2 inches seed depth. We're going to do about 1 inch. And we're going to glue it right there. Just a little bit of glue. Just a dab. A little dab will do you. And this glue's been sitting here a little bit too long. You won't make that mistake though, will you? So we have a little dab of glue. We're going to take our seed with hilum pointing down, and we're just going to stick it. And we're going to twist it around and rub it in a little bit to make sure that it's stuck there. And if you find you can't hold it upside down, you might need a little bit more glue. But I would err on the side of less glue instead of more glue. Then we're just going to take our seed that's stuck to our stick, and we're going to put it in there for now for safekeeping. That moved. Actually, I went out and I bought a 5,000 Kelvin light. Big honking thing. Because there was a shadow under my hat. Rewatched some of this footage. There was a shadow under my hat. It's driving me crazy. I don't know if it drove you nuts, but it drove me nuts. So I went out and I bought that. And hopefully this is better. I also cleaned up a little bit. And I also realized when I watched back the footage, I didn't label my corn. Now, this is Honey Select. That's the cultivar. So we need to label it as such. So we're just going to do that right now, because this stick, it's going to stay with this seed right until harvest. And what's beautiful about using these wooden sticks instead of the little plastic plant labelers is that it's going to just stay in my garden forever and break down and become part of the soil. It's going to act a little bit like mulch, I suppose, in a way. And it's going to put some of that organic matter back in the soil. You're probably wondering, though, how do I plant this? Well, I'm going to show you. So, we have some prepared soil here. This is moist soil. And the way I do it with my seed trays is I just put soil up to the top, and then I put water in the bottom so that with an empty tray, it would be coming up through the holes of the bottom. As soon as it starts to come up through the holes, that's where I leave it. And then the water will wick up into the soil, and this will be perfectly moist soil. And when I put the soil in here, I put it in loosely. So it's nice and light and fluffy. I don't pack it down at all because those seeds need that air. They need that oxygen. We don't want them getting into an environment where they can't grow because there's not enough air. So we definitely don't want compaction, and we definitely don't want that seed to suffocate. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to stick it in. So watch. So we're going to take our Honey Select seed that we have glued to a popsicle stick, and we are just going to stick it down into the hole, twist it a little bit at the bottom, make sure it's all the way down. And then what you might have to do is just push the soil in close around the popsicle stick a little bit so that the seed is covered with soil. Just be careful too when you're putting the lid on that these sticks don't get pushed back. Make sure that when you've cut them, when you're measuring them and you're testing them, make sure that the lid doesn't push them, because if it pushes it back, it might actually pull the seed away from the soil. And again, because the popsicle stick itself has absorbed that moisture, it's not such a big deal. But you know what? Let's just give our seed a nice place to germinate. So that's it. It's simple. That's the way you plant your seeds with the glue popsicle stick method. Now, this method is going to create a problem for you. And I can already see the comments about mold. Yes, if you use this method and you put this in a seed tray with a lid that's sealed, you're going to get moisture buildup. You are going to get mold. The mold that I saw was the white fuzzy stuff. It was mostly at the base where it touches the dirt, but in essence, it was up the entire stick, and it started growing within a day. So I got a couple suggestions for this. I've had a control over here behind me. It's simply the seed starting soil in a seed tray, nothing else. No seeds, no popsicle sticks, no trace of mold in it after 2 weeks. So we are definitely getting mold from the popsicle sticks. One way to treat it, and this is what I've been doing, is just spraying it with hydrogen peroxide mix. And this is 4 parts water to 1 part hydrogen peroxide. Perfectly safe for your seeds. If anything, this might actually activate or oxidize some of the organic matter in the soil or in the popsicle stick itself. And oxidation will create oxygen. That will actually give air and oxygen to your seeds, which they need, especially once they start growing. So you can see this method works. This seed tray, we've got peppers starting in. So the other option you could use is to leave the lid off. Get a fan blowing on it. When those seedlings pop up, you're going to want a fan anyways to provide some of that airflow, make them wave in the wind and strengthen those stems. I don't know what this is. I feel like I should be singing Kumbaya while I do that. But anyway, this method is not good for me. Leaving the lid off is not an option. The reason is I don't start on heat mats. I don't use heat mats. I use a grow light, and I put my seed trays on top of the grow light. This particular grow light, this is the Root Farm grow light. It produces enough heat to bring these seed trays up to 30 degrees Celsius. Leaving it on 16 hours a day, that's about what you want for when you're starting plants anyways. The plants underneath get light and the seeds up top get heat. So that's the reason I need to leave my lid on. So I've been combating this mold just by spraying it daily. The other thing you can do is when you put your soil in, you put it in dry, before you've even started planting your seeds. Put the mix of hydrogen peroxide that I told you about in the bottom. And that's how you're going to start watering. You're just going to put your tray back in, and as it wicks up, it will actually wick up that hydrogen peroxide solution into the sticks and hopefully kill off or keep some of those mold spores at bay. Again, you're only looking at about 2 days effectiveness, right? So maybe you want to hit this. I wouldn't hit your seeds with this hydrogen peroxide solution every 2 days. Maybe once a week though, bottom water it with the hydrogen peroxide solution. That being said, I have an experiment going on which will reveal whether or not these bamboo sticks, these are just skewers I bought at the dollar store. This is natural wood, but it's more dense and it's thick and it has kind of a, I don't know if there's not a coating on it, but it just feels less porous. And I think there's probably going to be less mold spores in this to begin with. And it's probably also going to resist the mold spores better, as well as maybe not soaking up so much of that moisture. So I've also, some of them I have charred with just a candle to seal in that wood a little bit. And I've got an experiment going on. And so after 1 day, the popsicle stick in the very front was actually I hit it with the hydrogen peroxide solution, but it was starting to get that white fuzzy mold on it. So far, none of the bamboo sticks have. But I've got this running for the next, oh gosh, probably month. And we'll see how this works out. I'm also experimenting with activated carbon or activated charcoal as a means of preventing the mold and just common, regular, old cinnamon, both mixing it into the soil and layering it a little bit on top. And we're gonna see, there'll be another video. If there isn't already, there will be, depends when you watch this one. But my channel will have a video with results of this experiment. But in the meantime, the reason I chose to make this video entirely about popsicle sticks, in essence, showing you how to do this with popsicle sticks, that's what it's because when it comes to mold, you don't need to worry about that when you are using these jumbo popsicle sticks to plant out your direct sow seeds. I used these last year in my garden. No problem with mold whatsoever. Eventually they did rot into the soil, kind of adding to the mulch. But this was probably the most fun I have had in a long time. I spent a long time completely addicted to gluing seeds to jumbo popsicle sticks. I have a lot of them, as you can see. So this is going to be an incredible joy for me because these, as you can see, are color-coded. So I've got green ones are my leafy lettuces and my romaines. I've got herbs. These are all glued, so you can see all of these have something glued to the stick. I put these in here, and I've got them organized. I don't even have to label this because I know that green, blue, and purple are my leafies, my root vegetables, and my legumes. So these can actually be planted out probably next week. It's the first week of April. So I can plant these out even though there's risk of frost because these are the cold hardy plants. This jar will go out with me to the garden because I've used the Gorilla Glue, which is actually water resistant once it's dry. Now, it's not completely water resistant. I did an experiment over 2 days. It eventually broke down and the seeds fell off. But I could effectively go out into the garden with this filled with water. And when I plant these, the seeds have a great start with a moisture-rich stick that's accompanying them into the soil. The other thing about this is these are not going to mold. And when I go out to the garden, I can go out in the rain. I don't have to bring my seed packet with me, my paper seed packet, and worry about getting soaking wet. It's the last thing you want is for your seed packets to be wet and then all mushy and sticking to everything in the rain. Not my thing. Not my thing at all. So now I can go out in the rain and just grab a stick out of a jar, stick it in the soil, move on to the next one. I know exactly what's planted where. These are bright, cheerful colors in my garden. Who knows, they might even attract pollinators. So that is why I chose to use popsicle sticks. Just keep in mind, if you're using this method, start seeds indoors. There may be a mold problem you have to address. So, I'm so excited. I'm joking. Thanks for going along with me on this one. I hope you learned something. Until next time, I gotta grow or choke.